Happy New Year, TheJanticJournal. It's after midnight, 1/1/17, and I'm in the garage. Shout out to Wicket the Instigator, Diversify Yo Bonds. That is an excellent mix. I listened to that when I had my wisdom teeth removed. Maybe when I get my implant put in, I'll be jamming that too. I recommend, if you ever have to get teeth pulled or any kind of crazy dental surgery where you're going to be awake and it's going to suck, I'm going to get some headphones and jam some good, like, hard-hitting fucking tunes. Because if you're listening to some, like, drill going on and you don't got anything to cut it with, it's just going to suck. And you're just going to be focused on, like, my tooth. But if you got some, like, heavy metal, some fucking bass, you know, dubstep, or if you're into some rap, get some Tyler the Creator on that. Get something jamming, and it won't be so bad. It's like cutting your whiskey, you know. It might hurt a little bit. Anyway, point being, I'm in the lab tonight. Q Lab. I got my paintball wall. I got my bottles. All right. So the reason I'm in here today and not out partying, other than I don't really party anymore since college, it's, you know, not my scene as much. I'd rather be in playing Battlefield or something. But I'm in today. I'm working tonight because I've been kind of cramming all week. I've got the week off from my normal day job, and we've been cramming all week on this airplane. I spent a few hours earlier, maybe it was Tuesday or something, or last week. I spent a few hours over at Mike and Joey's, and kind of fiddling with some stuff. But now I'm working on the Motovox, and I'm down in my shop in my basement with the Motovox happening. Alright, so let's get to why I'm here tonight. Let's look under the frame. So what's going on with that seat? That doesn't look normal. See how that's flopping around? See how when I put pressure on top of the seat, look at that, you can see the foam. So the seat's a little busted. I'm not a huge fan of that. It's not the end of the world, but it does mean I'm going to make a new one. So what we're going to do to make a new one is I'm going to take the seat off. I'm going to basically remove this vinyl and the foam, and I'm going to get my seat pan, and I'm going to measure the nominal dimensions of the pan, figure out where the bolts go and all that, and then I'm going to make a custom one out of aluminum. So I'm going to trace that pattern, I'm going to put it into AutoCAD, and then I got a sheet of 063 6061 T6 aluminum. I'm going to be trimming that, cutting that out on the router table anyway, so, you know, a couple swipes of the CNC mill will bust out a piece. It's going to have this bend to it. That's not a problem either. I'll get a couple blocks. I'll throw it on my hydraulic press probably. May not even need to do that. I might just put it in a vise and give it a little bit of whack with a hammer, but I'll put that bend into it. And then while I'm at it, since I'm kind of close to the frame, I'll put a couple spacers under here. I got a little bit of headroom. I'll raise this seat up and maybe move it forward a little bit. I don't need it to be quite so trailing. I might kind of play with the profile a tiny bit. Anyway, I think I'm going to try to keep the cover, you know, the basic look. I might make a custom cover anyway, because Mike's got his project RuPaul's Drag Race going on, so I'll let him flex with that, and you know, I'll take a shot at it myself maybe and make a custom seat. But first I gotta make a pan no matter what. So bye busted plastic, we're gonna go aluminum. Alright, so I'm over on the healing bench. As I said before, it's a mess and a half. I got all kinds of weird stuff going on. Anyway, here's the seat. As you can see, it's broke to shit. So when I take it all apart, I don't even know how complete it's going to be. I might have to take dimensions of just these holes as they sit. Now here's the thing to remember. I'm cutting this as a flat object, even though this is bent and kind of rounded and all that other stuff. So what I gotta do is measure as it lies along the surface to the holes, not from there to there in real space, but as a flat space. What's the travel distance to those holes? Because it's going to be made flat, and then I gotta put it in a break and bend it. So the other thing is, this is stapled on. Get the fuck out of here. This thing is stapled on. I won't be able to do that with aluminum unless you're the most awesome fucking staple gun in the universe. So I'm going to actually use pull rivets. I got tons and tons of pop rivets for our airplane, so I'll drill holes and use rivets instead. So that works pretty good, and unless I come up with a better solution, like I don't know, Elmer's glue, I'm going to just use rivets. So that's how we do it on the airplanes for fabric covering, is, you know, well, they'll stitch it on, but rivets. This is the AutoCAD version of my seat pan. And this took me not all night to draw, but it's the next morning. I decided to call it a night after I drew this. And so this morning, and this is my workstation, watching the Savage. He just put out his new video. So this morning I've got my cut 2D ready to go. These are the pieces I'm going to be cutting out of the aluminum, and these are the cut paths for that. And so this program here is called Cut 2D, and it allows me to, you know, simulate what is going to happen when I cut my my material out. So there's a seat pan on that side. I got, these are going to be some pads for a pedal that I'm designing for the airplane, and that's a bracket. So that's all getting cut out, and we're going to do that next. Alright, so we just carved out all the pieces. You could see that it took like 4 or 7, I think, bits to actually cut everything out. But you can see here the finished piece. I got these pedal pads, and I got this part here. So I didn't go with lightning holes, and the purpose of that was for heat dissipation. The motor's right there. The lightning hole might let in heat, melt the foam, who knows. So keep the full aluminum. It's not going to help, you know, or it's not going to hurt the weight too much. And then it's got these grooves here. Those are where I'm going to bend over to make little mini flanges. It's going to help stiffen the seat a lot and give it a little bit of a cool contour. So we'll see how that looks. I got to bend it across there too to match the profile. So a couple bends, and then it's ready for foam. Alright, so we got the sheet deburred. All the holes have been cleaned up. All the edges are smooth. You're not going to cut yourself on this. It's not going to cut the upholstery, whatever we put on there. Because that cutter was so rough, there was big old nasty burrs all along the edge. So I had to really work on it to get those knocked off. Usually I use a nicer cutter that's like true carbide, not Chinesium. So it usually leaves a really nice finish on aluminum. But those cutters were kind of like backup reserve. They didn't do the job very good. So it did do the job though, so I just had a bit more cleanup than normal. But for this part, it's fine. If it was on the airplane, I'd be maybe more picky, but you know, this'll do. So, now I gotta bend it, and we'll see how it looks on the frame. Okay, so the part is basically done. It's got the bend here, and those bends there. It doesn't have to be perfect. I wanted it sort of gradual. And then these are essentially going to rest on the frame. So the whole seat is elevated a little bit. And then I'm going to put standoffs under that. So that should help lift that up. And then this actually is going to have some spring. So between that being mounted, there's going to be a little bit of gap. So the whole seat will kind of have a little bit of almost suspension, I hope. We'll see how that works. So, yeah, not bad for a hammer. Okay, so I'm starting to take the vinyl off, and you can just see how junk the plastic of the seat is. I mean, so like that's fairly clean, but I just, you know, twist it and it shatters. Like, I'm assuming this is some kind of a cast. I don't know. It's like the crappiest. Maybe it's a resin, which would explain these big pore holes. But I mean, and this vinyl is crap too. But I mean, this stuff's probably been sitting out in the cold. I mean, I was like, oh, I'm going to try to use a screwdriver and pull all this stuff off, but just freaking tear it. So, I'm trying to preserve the vinyl, not so much to reuse it at this point, because it's trash, but just for the pattern. So, I mean, it's gross. You can tear on it. So, this is the underlying foam. And this looks like it's like Expand-A-Foam, right? So they probably have a mold. They may even have this as part of the mold, and they just spray or pour the Expand-A-Foam, urethane foam, into the mold, and it expands to make this shape. And I'm actually in the middle of investing in a whole bunch of equipment to do that myself, to do urethane casting. I'm hoping I'll be able to choose something that isn't this frickin' garbage. Because, I mean, look at that. That's trash. So, we got the aluminum. This guy is going to be way better. This is about what it looks like. You know, so it's gonna be a lot better, and you can see that yeah, this kind of overlaps, which is kind of cool. So I'm gonna get some kind of a material, maybe leather or just, you know, heavier pleather, vinyl, something, and I'll coat this and then rivet it into place with pop rivets and maybe some like another layer of material just to reinforce that edge. But one thing I thought I might do is just mock up how the foam would look with the fabric, just to see if I'm close in my material use. So I'll put this back on. Now I might need to bend that a little bit more just because the foam. The other option I have is I can actually there's a gap there, right? I could fill that with more foam. And in fact, what I could also do is I could get some really soft foam for the top and lay that in between, sandwich it in there and glue it, and then fabric on top. Make a really nice seat that way. But yeah, so it looks like it will work if I use this pattern. There's plenty of material. And then from the outside, you almost won't be able to tell. It'll be, when you look on the bottom, you go, oh shit, that's metal. So, and then this will probably get painted too. So, yeah. So it's getting there. It needs a little bit of work, but you know, that's what it is.